I put over 1,000 hours into the Diablo 4 Necromancer, and it's time to make a State of the Necro update like an open letter to Blizzard. Because we have a problem, multiple problems, but one is glaring obvious as we have been making recently a super nuclear corpse explosion build. We're talking about physical corpse explosion doing billions of damage, obliterating everything. But two things holding this build greatly back. The first thing, there's no key passive, the one thing that makes every build excel. Well, apart from Kelling's Attic, which is completely trash. But there's no key passive for corpse skills. We have Bone, Blood, and Shadow. And then we do have, well, the class of the corpse skills, and it says Corruption too, but with the class of the corpse skills, with also corpse tendrils. And there's nothing to boost them. So if I was fully focusing on this right now and not using Bone Spear as bonus damage, there's no way to boost this. And not only is there no way to boost the corpse skill with any kind of key passive, there is not a single Paragon board for corpse skills. Yes, we do have a glyph called Exhumation that actually boosts our corpse skill damage, and for that costs significant. And then our board that would boost physical damage, because corpse explosion does one thing and it's called physical damage. It doesn't actually boost physical damage, it's the bone graft board. It boosts bone skill damage and bone skill critical strike damage and bone skill critical strike chance. That means that there's not a single board, there's Shadow, there's a Flesh Eater, there's Scent of Death, and they're all doing like critical strike damage, but there's nothing that boosts physical damage, only conditional damage like damage while healthy, damage while fortified, these kind of things, but not a single board to actually get the one skill that you want to play up. Now you could say, Pony, maybe other classes are lacking too. Maybe they don't have good key passives happening. This is the Sorcerer with 6 different key passives. Yes, 6. I have 4 and one of them is completely useless and needs a rework beyond belief. Then we get the Druid that also has 6 different key passives. Followed up by the Rogue, who only has 5, and then the weak Barbarian, who has 4 key passives, but, well, he can do trillions of damage. Now that was just a look at the variety of the key passives given, and they're obviously lacking one. Not only does there, by the way, lack one for corpses, technically we have this whole kind of curse theme going on the side, and we don't even have a curse key passive. That could turn our curses into auras that would be happening permanently. And guess what? If there was a way to make my curses into auras, I would instantly discard all of these key passives straight away, no matter how much damage they give me, just to have my curses happen automatically and me not having to care about casting them the whole time. Give me my curse auras back. One definite lacking feature. Now, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, despite the lack of the key passive, Necromancer is extremely varied. When we have multiple shadow builds from crit to damage over time, with multiple corpse explosion builds, there is a blood lance and a blood surge, there's the bone spear, there's the bone spirit, and there is even minion builds that work. Let's not open the minion box of the Pandora right now. They do work, they are extremely clunky, and they need to be completely reworked. Summoner Necromancer, that should be the #1 thing a necro got going on, like the Summoner of the Den, is the least viable concept of all of them. And until they really find a way to redo that from the ground up, since Summoner doesn't even have a core skill. Yes, and that's sad. We have 2 shadow skills, 2 blood skills, 1 bone skill, and now we don't even have a spender, something like summon a volatile zombie like Last Epoch has, where you summon a zombie that explodes, or even command your skeletons to attack somewhere like a kill word, and then they go and do bonus damage. Anything that allows me to spend resource to use as a spender and not play summons and then use one other core skill from the other schools to make summons work. But core skill wise, we have the same as Barbarian, the same as Rogue, and also the same as Sorcerer. Well, Sorcerer has 1 more, and Druid has how many? Well, Druid has the same. So we got all 5 core skills. That's great. Now, if we're moving on to the second tree, there is 4 different elemental skills for him. We have 3 only for the Rogue. Sorcerer has 4 defensive skills, and Barbarian has 4 too. Now, we have 3. But not only do we have 3, this one makes me untargetable This is a corpse explosion, not even a defensive skill. And that's a bone prison, which helps me to imprison enemies, make them vulnerable, give me some cooldown reduction on essence, but does nothing for me. It's not a defensive skill. It doesn't make me survive more. Sure, I could maybe bone prison in enemies, could also bone prison in myself to keep them away from me, but it's not like this true kind of defensive skill. I mean, Sorcerer has a flame shield that prevents death, ice barrier with mana regeneration. Just as a comparison, where's my bone armor? I mean, that bone prison is more a skill that should be down here and more flashed out than it should be in the defensive skill board where I have nothing to help me survive. This was glaringly obvious in the Abattoir of Zir. Because in the Abattoir of Zir, there was one single build that worked, and that was our Blood Mist build. Since if you wouldn't be Blood Misted, even with all the damage reduction things, since Necro doesn't have another damage reduction ability, anything to boost my defense, you're kind of like, you're in Blood Mist or you die. You're in Blood Mist or you die. And it kind of continued like that. This is kind of sad and shows we're missing something there, especially with only 3 skills. Considering here as well that we're missing, again, a minion skill. I mean, the only minion skill you have is making your skeletal warriors stronger and more sturdy. But not a spell, nothing. Not like make your skeletal warriors explode, turn one of your skeletal warriors into a bone armor, throw a skeletal warrior at an opponent, anything. Have all your skeletal warriors taunt and give them bonus defense or thorns. No, just make them more sturdy. Moving on to the curse board. Yes, third tier 3 spells we call them have 2 curses right now. Barbarian has 4. We got Rogue with 4. We got Necromancer with 2. Sorcerer with 3. And very cool passive that makes you sturdy. And Druid with 3 as well. So every class has more. You could say, Pony, we get a summon skill boost again to make your skeletal mages more sturdy. Now this is the curse tree, right? And this is skeletal mages. So we have an aspect that makes our skeletal mages cast Blizzard. Why couldn't we target this? Why can't our skeletal mages cast Blizzard on skill use? And maybe we can even spam this or use this as an active ability. Anything, to be honest. Empower our skeletal mages to shoot, instead of normal fireballs, ginormous fireballs. Anything. Again, missed opportunity for a skill. Then we do have the 2 curses where we actually only have 1 curse because this one does damage reduction and slow. Also the cooldown reduction with the instant kill, where Iron Maiden does nothing. The only reason to use Iron Maiden in the very beginning might be for essence regain. But since we get the robot for that this season, Iron Maiden is a complete dead skill. So we efficiently have 1 skill here. That's it. Don't worry, we'll move over to the next tree. Because now we have 3 big customization trees for our core skills. I mean, we have Gruesome Mending, we have Serration, so Bone, Blood, and Shadow. You could say, where's the corpses? Because, well, corpse is one of our main skills, so we get 3. There's also a minion tree missing, but hey, we get that down here, so don't worry, we get the minion tree down there. So this is also where the corpse tree is going to be, right? Okay, no corpse tree, good that we talked about it. So yeah, we're missing the corpse skills completely again, right? But we have Necrotic Carapace, which doesn't work. Important. Now we do have 2 skills, but we have a lot of passives, so that should be fine. Let's look at the Druid for a second. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 skills. Then there is also cool passive trees for every single school. With the Sorcerer, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 skills with cool passive specializations for every single school. But surely the Rogue is only going to have 3, and then it's going to have, well, cool passive trees to specific everything again. With the Barbarian having only 3 skills. Yeah, and cool passive trees too. So, good. Now, I'll say that we do have Bone Spirit, which is a massive nuking skill that was completely useless until this season where it got new aspects. So, thumbs up to Blizzard for actually making Bone Spirit a viable choice if you do have the right aspects. They are in the Codex of Powers though, so you can straight up use it. That's actually a good thing. That being said, realistically, there's 1 skill, and you took these 3 points in, and that's about it. And especially for this build here right now, I have nothing to boost my Corpse Explosion again. I mean, I have to boost my Bone Skills, and my Bone Skills. Nothing for Corpse Skills. In any capacity, Corpse Skills are done. Nothing for Minions, but Minions are down here, so I can put a lot of points in them down here. obviously. That's cool. But nothing for corpse skills but Fortify. And Fortify is already being done with my glyph. So that's completely useless. And, well, we're missing a shadow skill. We're missing a blood skill, right? I mean, this is a corpse skill. This is a bone skill. Where's my shadow skill? Where's my shadow bomb, shadow pool, shadow drain, shadow tornado, blood grenade that you throw at things, a blood armor, blood spikes from the ground, impaling everyone, Vlad the Impaler style? Where's that? Instead, I'm getting a skill that can make a blood orb with a 3% chance. It goes up to a 9% chance. That can happen every 4 seconds. I'm good. I'm fine. It's not. It's good. It's good. Good. Let's go down to the ultimate skills. Ultimate skills is cool. We get Bone Storm. We get Blood Wave. And we get Army of the Dead. I actually found use for Army of the Dead, which was a complete dead skill before, but we've been using it in a Corpse Explosion build. What? We've been using Army of the Dead in a Corpse Explosion build? Isn't there a Corpse Ultimate? No, there is no Corpse Ultimate. Okay, chat, listen. There's no Corpse Ultimate. Money ran out. You don't have a Shadow Ultimate too, which is not true. I'm lying to you here, okay? So we have a Bone Ultimate, we have a Blood, and we have a Summon Ultimate. Fantastic. The thing is, in order to get a Shadow Ultimate, you have to have an aspect to turn Blood Wave or Bone Storm into Shadow. So if you don't find this aspect, you'll actually never get like a Shadow Ultimate. That means for a Shadow build, technically, you don't have anything to use as well. So you're tacking into full Shadow, then you reach this board, and you're going to ignore this board completely and move on to your key passive. At least you have a key passive. And on top of that, you have all these cool minion skills, right? Which make minions stronger. Do you know what the strongest minion skill is in the whole Necromancer board? It's sacrificing your minion. Because you know what? You get 18% damage reduction. Not only do you get 18% damage reduction, which is great, you get 60% boost to your sacrifice bonuses. Yes, if we do actually sacrifice our minions, we get so amazing bonuses like a 21% multiplier on our shadow damage with that 60%. Yes, all our shadow damage is 21% more damage, or we get 8% crit chance, or our resistances are fully maxed out, plus we do more damage against vulnerable enemies, or we get more essence, or we do up to like 32% more overpower damage, multiplicative, raising us from 2,000 to 3,000%. Oh, guess what? The Golem gives us 30% increase in critical strike damage. That means that sacrificing your minions in any capacity is better for damage reduction, but also to boost your whole character. And if you're not sacrificing them, you're losing so much for having them, and they're not giving you the equivalent back. Think about it. I sacrifice them, I get a 60% bonus plus the 18% damage reduction. And if I sacrifice them, I get a 1,000% more overpower damage. Now you would say the minions have to make up for this 1,000. Like if I keep the mages, they make up for 1,000% overpower damage, which would lead to hiring my millions to multi-millions kind of overpowers. Yeah, but sadly they don't do that. They don't make up for the power difference that their sacrifice gives us. So not sacrificing them is kind of stupid. Now minions did get buffed though. So if you sacrifice them now, and if you go into the cult leaderboard, and if you boost their attack speed, they do get a damage multiplier. And even if you do that and fully tack into them attack speed wise, they're still not doing damage. So something must be completely broken in all the damage calculations around the way. Now closing the loop again here and coming back to our passives, we do have cool passives where the Shadow Blight key passive is arguably one of the most interesting one, where you can like stack it up and then you do bonus damage, and it's kind of like very intricate and nice. And the Ossified Essence one has you cast with maximum essence, and this one gives you free overpowers, and this one gives your minions a little bit more attack speed bonus. Oh, it's doubled if you have 7 minions. Yeah, like they get plus 30% attack speed. This Callan's Addict should give you +2 Skeletal Warriors and +2 Skeletal Mages. These should not be aspects, because right now you have to have 2 aspects to actually get more skeletons. But no, that's what your key passive should do to boost your minions. That would be great and make it finally useful and not a complete waste of air. Plus, we do need anything corpse-wise, because why can't I just play a corpse build? No, I have to play a hybrid. I am forced to integrate Bone Spear, Blight, anything. I obviously have to play my Curse. We can use the second Bone skill, and then we at least have a Bone Storm, again, Bone Ultimate. So we're super forced to merge the bone concept with the corpse concept to even have the corpse concept work, despite the corpse concept being able to be my main damage source. Which leads to the ultimate question. A, did an intern make this? No offense to the class designer. B, did you run out of money? C, did another class designer responsible for Druid half-ass the Necromancer? Because there's so many things missing. Synergy-wise, skill-wise. I mean, just simply having a first glance at the skill board and then looking at anyone else's. I mean, you just scroll over this, especially the middle portion, right? This is the Sorcerer's middle portion. And you look at this and you're like, oh, this looks pretty damn good and super fun. And then we're looking back to the Necro and you're just kind of like, am I a joke to you? Despite of all these shortcomings, the Necromancer is still super fun to play and has a tremendous variety happening with a lot of different builds. Just still that so many skills don't make any sense. Number one here being Sever, because Sever is a skill in the Shadow board, and Sever scales with critical strike. More critical strike, more Sever damage. Has a low lucky hit chance as well. You can boost Sever's damage by using minions per 2%. So if you're not using minions, you could make someone vulnerable every third Sever cast, which is bullshit anyways. Compare that to Bone Spear getting a huge amount of critical strikes, or Overpower skills getting free overpowers happening here. Even Supernatural Blight gives us 15% damage multiplier, okay? So Sever has a complete useless second skill, more or less. Maybe you get the 40% bonus damage. Now Sever does scale with critical strike, and it's a shadow skill. The thing is that the Shadow Blight key passive needs damage over time to actually, well, do more damage. And that the whole stick with shadow damage is doing more shadow damage over time, especially when you turn Corpse Explosion into a shadow damage over time skill. And shadow damage over time can't crit. So now without any uniques like X-Felds that helps you with critting and shadow damage over time, you're having a skill that wants you to stack critical strike into a shadow board that cannot critical strike, to then have your core skill critical strike and all your other skills do less damage. And you're doing all of that to, with your shadow damage over time thingies, stack the Shadow Blind to then get the 180% bonus damage to then have your Sever do bonus damage. Whereas Blight simply does shadow damage over time and can crit because it has two portions, has a way higher lucky hit chance, and lucky hit chance is kind of needed to make corpses, to then make more corpse explosions, to then get more shadow damage over time, to then have Shadow Blight trigger, to then have X-Felds trigger. So the Sever is technically a super fun and beautiful looking skill, but from a design concept, it kind of like doesn't even fit into the shadow tree. Could have made it a corpse skill instead somehow than a shadow skill. Now, having mentioned every single thing, every single shortcoming, every single problem, I still think that Necro is the best class in the whole goddamn game. And it's super, super duper fun to play, and I'm not planning to swap to anything else to main. Still want to see quite some improvements, please, Blizzard. And if I could get your class designer and we could sit down and he could just talk us through maybe some plans you have for Necro in the future, I would love that. I'm open here. Podcast, interview, everything. An episode. Keeping it respectful, down to earth. Just want to get some insight on some of these design decisions. What do you think? Is your class lacking too? Do you want to talk about your class being broken? Drop it in the comments below. Moan a bit. Give us feedback. I'll compile a list. I'll send it to Blizzard. Now, if you do want to see that absolute broken Necromancer that we're talking about, the number one that's currently rampaging over the battlefield, enjoy.